Hello, Kidney Warriors! James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is Dadvice TV Live. Now it's Tuesday, so that means we're going to be talking with renal dietitian Jen Hernandez from Plant Powered Kidneys. But before we jump into our discussion tonight, if you're new, welcome. Great to have you here. Make sure you subscribe to Dadvice TV over on YouTube. Hit that little bell icon. That way, every time we're doing another live show like this, or I upload a video, you'll get a notification so you don't miss anything. And if you are new, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is James. I'm a kidney warrior, and I love kicking kidney disease to the curb. I was diagnosed stage 5, and I focused on diet and lifestyle, started moving, started eating better, worked very closely with multiple renal dietitians, and improved my overall health. As my health improved, so did my labs, and all my symptoms gone. I feel great, got all my energy back, and I look so much better than I did when I was diagnosed. I look like a cast member from The Walking Dead and not one of the heroes. I look like one of the zombies back then. Now today, we are going to talk about what, in my mind, is the biggest secret to helping you live a great life with kidney disease. You go out on the internet when you're diagnosed, you're looking for all sorts of stuff, and you're seeing these lists. Don't eat this, don't do that. And it becomes scary when it comes to food. What can you eat? What should you eat? How much? What should you avoid? Well, the secret to learning how to eat healthy is working with a renal dietitian. That's what I did, and it was eye-opening. I went from being afraid of eating food and feeling like there was such a short list of food that I could eat to eating practically anything I want. I just watch the portions and I watch the nutritional value of the foods that I eat. And that has been part of my treatment strategy to help me kick kidney disease to the curb. Now, to help us talk about renal dietitians, what they are, what they do, how can you find one? What should you expect from one? From plantpoweredkidneys.com, let's welcome renal dietitian Jen Hernandez. Hey, Jen.
Hi, James. Hey, everybody. Good to be back here another Tuesday night with y'all.
Awesome.
So, for those of you that have never seen one of our chats here before on Dadvice TV, my name is Jen Hernandez, and I am a renal dietitian. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit more details. I'm going to share with you guys some more of my backstory. You guys can learn about my path to becoming a dietitian, and not only a registered dietitian, but a board certified renal dietitian. So I have been working on Plant Powered Kidneys, my virtual private practice. We see people in the United States for private one-on-one services, and we have our 6-week Plant Powered Kidneys nutrition course that we run several times throughout the year. And we help people with early stages, even late stages of kidney disease, do everything that they possibly can with their nutrition to preserve their kidney function. And we have seen a lot of great results and success, not only from our private clients, but from the students of the Plant Powered Kidneys course. I see familiar names on here. I know a lot of you are students of the Plant Powered Kidneys course, and even our private clients as well. So it is just something that we are very grateful to do at Plant Powered Kidneys, and we love sharing the message that you can eat more food on a renal diet, and in particular, you can eat more plants. You can eat more fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds and all of that good stuff. The power really comes from understanding what's going on with your kidney health and how that fits into your own nutrition needs and your preferences. So you can learn more about us at plantpoweredkidneys.com. You can also find our Facebook group, and that is just going on Facebook, and you can search Plant Powered Kidneys, and hopefully you find us. I think we're over 5,000 members already. We might
Woohoo!
be close to 6,000. So we have a lot of people in there that are in similar situations. And again, we always tell everybody no one is in the same situation, but you might have some things that kind of you hear that makes sense for somebody else. it doesn't mean everybody should be following the same thing, but what you do get in the group is a lot of ideas, a lot of great recipes and food ideas, great pictures, and a lot of, I would say, support in knowing other people that are in the community that are also looking for the same outcome, which is better kidney health through better nutrition. So, so good to be back here with you guys tonight. I'm very excited to be talking with you all, explaining to you more about what a renal dietitian is and what we can do, how we can help you.
Yeah, and for those of you out there who have not joined the Plant Powered Kidneys Facebook group, you're going to love it. You're going to get all sorts of ideas, and I love people taking pictures of the meals they made. Lots of great ideas. I've tried a lot of new things, and I would say I liked almost all of them. There's a few things I'm still going to learn how to cook, like mushrooms. I haven't figured that part out yet, but there's
Well,
so many
and
great
that's okay.
ideas.
Yeah, we don't need to like everything. We don't need to eat everything either. And that's the great thing is that there's so many different food options. There's so many fruits and vegetables and plants out there. You absolutely do not have to make yourself eat certain things if you don't want to. That's something that we tell our clients a lot is don't feel like you have to eat something. The best collision of all of this is where it comes together to be a diet that you really enjoy and that you know
Hmm.
is really it's really helping your body thrive. It's helping your kidneys thrive.
Yeah, when I was first diagnosed, my diet was, first of all, before diagnosis, it was awful. Fast food, high processed, high sodium food. When I first got diagnosed, I was completely lost, afraid of what to eat. I actually did not eat enough, which caused other problems. And my doctor said, look, I'm going to get you with a renal dietitian. It's a dietitian that knows about kidneys. It's going to help you learn what you can eat. And they told me, you're going to be shocked at how much food you get to choose from. And I was. And probably the biggest thing I learned about working with a renal dietitian is just how individualized each person's diet is. Even with the
Mhm.
exact same GFR, you could both be a 15, but the diets can be completely different because so many other things go into it. And that's where a renal dietitian works their magic, does all their science stuff and all that, and comes up with, hey, here's what's good for you to eat to help you get the most out of what you have and to be healthy.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, I always promote renal dietitian. It's like it's the biggest mistake I see people make with kidney disease is not working with the dietitian and trying to do it alone. So much
Mhm.
they can help you with. Now,
Mhm.
for someone who is new, what is a dietitian compared to a nutritionist?
So, in general, and we're just looking at a dietitian. So, dietitian has the abbreviation RD. So, if you guys see like my email signature, sometimes if you reach out and email me, you'll see RD or RDN. So, a dietitian is somebody that has gone through school, got at least their bachelor's degree. So, my bachelor's degree is in nutritional science. I actually had kind of a dual major. I basically took all the nutrition classes, and there is a nutritional science aspect, and then there was a dietetics aspect. And I did pretty much all of the dietetic classes. But on my paper that I have somewhere. I don't have it hung up, but it's a Bachelor's of Science in Nutritional Sciences. So you need to have that bachelor's degree at a credentialed university. After you do that, then you can apply to go through a dietetic internship. And there's some schools that will do the internship paired with your schooling or just the internship itself. So I did my dietetic internship through Iowa State University. Now, in that program, you have more classes, more studying, but then you also have the hands-on experience where you're basically a dietetic intern and you work in these different rotations in different aspects of nutrition careers, and you do at least 1,200 hours of supervised practice as a dietetic intern. So I was in the
That's
hospitals.
a lot.
It's yeah, yeah, it was.
That's
And
why you
even
can't do it alone. 1,200 hours right there of supervised
mhm.
work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all even as an intern, there's a dietitian who is overseeing my work and teaching me, training me, watching me educate my patients on these different types of diets. So a big chunk of our time would be spent in the hospital. I want to say it was like 60% or so of the time we were in the hospital, and I would be teaching people different types of diets related to why they were in the hospital. So, somebody who has poor blood sugar control, I would be talking with them about how to take care of their glucose and carbohydrate sources and things like that. And I saw some people who had cancer. So, we talked about an oncology diet, a diet that would be helpful for cancer. I would have people who came in after a heart attack or a stroke, and we would talk about cardiovascular health and low sodium and be careful with types of fats, things like that. So it's such a wide spectrum of situations and cases that you kind of jump all over the place. I would see anywhere, like I would see up to 20 patients a day, just kind of going through and seeing these different people in the hospital, for as long as they were interested in listening to me.
Hmm.
Coming in, it's kind of like cold calling. You can just come in and you're like, hey, let me tell you about this fantastic diet. And,
Yeah.
let's see what they say to that.
Now, when I was
um,
in the ICU, I kept begging because I read about
mhm,
a dietitian that, eating was important because it's one thing I can control.
mhm,
And I kept asking, can I see a dietitian? Can I see a dietitian? And I did see one briefly
yeah.
at that last day, but not for very long. But going back and doing a consultation and working one on one, I was just life changing for me. Listening to all the advice and the tips, and it took away so much fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely tough in the hospital because even for the people that do want to see us and they really want a lot of information, we are spread really thin. And so there might be like a 200 bed hospital. We have to go to all those beds in a certain amount of time. And so our time is very, very limited and stretched very thin, unfortunately. And the other thing too, and I'm sure you saw that, James, is that you don't really get any follow up. So
Mhm.
typically in my private practice, we see clients weekly, every other week, or at least at a minimum once a month. And we'll set goals and we'll talk about progress and you can't do that in the hospital. You can't do that working with just one dietitian for 15 minutes that you're hopefully never going to see again because they're in the hospital and that's not really where you want to be.
Yeah.
So it's a very different situation, but they can at least give you some like kind of general ideas, maybe some handouts to kind of help get you on the right path. And then ideally recommend maybe a dietitian that works in outpatient or that works private practice who you could follow up and have kind of a longer relationship with to be able to set goals and really track and monitor all the progress for those goals that you're setting. So after I did my internship and I did the 1,200 hours, then I get the honor of taking a test. then I qual right. Then I qualified to take the dietetic exam. And that it's a very intensive exam and they basically test you on all the stuff that we've been studying throughout our internship, throughout our bachelor's degree, basically everything to say, do you really know what you're supposed to know? So then you take your exam, and then once you pass the test, I passed mine on the first try, which is really good.
Yay!
Yep. Uh, so after you pass your test, then you earn the title registered dietitian. So that kind of in a nutshell is what a registered dietitian goes through to have the RD or RDN behind their name. Now, a nutritionist is a much broader category, and because it's so broad, there's no standardization or qualifications of what makes a person a nutritionist. There are some certifications, there's some like I've seen like online courses people can take that
I've
they
seen
can
them
then call
too.
themselves. Yeah, it's terrifying, honestly.
It is.
Just because there's a lot of great nutritionists out there that have gone through a lot of school. There's some people that have like a doctor's in nutritionists or in nutrition, but because there's no classification, there's no anybody can say they're a nutritionist, that's where it just kind of gets a little sketchy. So my recommendation right off the bat is when you're looking at a dietitian or a nutritionist, which, by the way, a dietitian can call themselves a nutritionist. Um, because again, anybody can call themselves that. And us as dietitians, a lot of us have taken on registered dietitian nutritionist,
Mhm.
RDN, to help kind of encompass the idea. A lot of people think of the idea like the term is nutritionist, and people call us nutritionists, even though we're dietitians. Um, but when you're looking at somebody, when you're looking at working with somebody, if they call themselves a nutritionist, I would really, really encourage that you do a little background check on them and see what exactly they did to become a nutritionist, what they're calling themselves. Like, are they a dietitian that's just also tacking on that extra term? Or
Mhm.
is it just somebody who took like a 90-minute course online and then has this generic certificate? Like, there's just so many spectrums. And somebody who's a nutritionist is not always going to know a lot of the stuff about renal nutrition. They could have taken a course about weight loss and then call
Mhm.
themselves a nutritionist, and that's a totally different field. That's a totally different realm. So please, please do your homework on the person that you want to work with and understand their background, learn more about them, understand what makes them qualified to help you, because at the end of the day, it's your health and it's your choice on who you work with. I tell this to people all the time. Like, even if somebody doesn't want to work with me, that's fine. I want you to work with a good dietitian who knows their stuff, and I want you to work with somebody that is really studied on this information and not just going to throw out different, well, I heard this could work and maybe
Yeah.
we can try this, and not a lot of those like theories, but actually like evidence-based proof of things that do help protect kidneys.
Yeah, and you have a great chart on the blog post that goes over what we're talking about today. Let me bring it up here. That kind of shows. Yeah, they squeeze it all here on the screen.
It's a
For
lot.
yeah, like a registered dietitian. Here's what they had to do. A renal dietitian, what they had to do. Board certified renal dietitian, even more stuff. There's an extra 2,000 hours here. Woo! See, that shows you they know their stuff. And then the nutritionist just has these couple little items right here.
Yeah. So I am a board certified renal dietitian, and that's why behind my name I can put CSR, certified specialist in renal nutrition. So I did my internship, I did my supervised hours, I passed the test, and then I did another 2,000 hours working with specifically with kidney patients. And I was also a dietitian in that time for at least 2 years. And then, like I said, I had the honor to take one test. Then they gave me the extreme honor to take another test. um, so
Maybe get
the
more
sec
letters after your name.
exactly, exactly. So the second test was just as intense as the first one, but it was all questions about renal. It was all questions about kidneys. So it really just kind of hyper focuses on that specialty. So I was a renal dietitian when I first started working in dialysis because that was my job title, but I wasn't board certified renal dietitian. So if you find somebody that says they're a renal dietitian, maybe they're working in dialysis, or they have been working in a CKD clinic. They could be working in transplant. Like, there's a lot of different places that people can be considered a renal dietitian without having the CSR. They might be working towards their CSR. There's a whole range. But again, it comes down to understanding what those credentials mean and how they kind of elevate I would say, the expectations of who you're working with.
Yeah, and which one of those is the most popular, the most common for us to find out there?
Honestly, the one that doesn't have any type of doesn't have any qualifications, because literally all of you could go out there right now and say you're a nutritionist, and that would be it. Nutritionists are very, because there's no limitation to who can say what they are in that regard. Um, there are more dietitians that are coming out every year, going through school, going through their internship. I believe when I checked the data at the end of last month, it was 108,000, just over 108,000 registered dietitians in the United States. I believe we're probably we have the most registered dietitians in the country, like for the United States compared to other countries. But there are registered dietitians, or they might have different types of credentials in other countries. And that's another, it's a whole other thing too,
Mhm.
where you want to look up the Dietetic Association related in your country to see what that means. And you can find dietitians or equivalents to dietitians in other countries that might just have different titles.
Okay, so what does a renal dietitian nutritionist, an RDN, do?
hmm So, a lot.
I'll tell you, it changes your life. That's for sure what they do for the better.
I hope so. I always hope that's the case for everybody that we come in contact with. Um, Renal dietitians really specifically focus on your nutrition and more specifically surrounding or focusing on your kidney health. But it's not just kidneys. We've talked about other things that the kidneys help us do, and we also focus on those. So like bone health, we talk about gut health,
Mhm.
we talk about, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of like all the different things that we do. Um, well, okay, let me start with this. So, we will do a comprehensive assessment to figure out what's going on. So, like diabetes or
Mhm.
high blood pressure or history of cancer or all kinds of things. We focus on all of those details and we start to formulate a treatment plan or a nutrition plan for you that is really customized to where you've been and where you're going when it comes to your nutrition health. So, we will look at your labs. We really like to highlight, and I know you've talked about this before with all of your dietitians and what you've done, James, of finding out what you like, what you enjoy liking,
Yes.
or what you
And
enjoy
what I
eating,
don't like.
and what you don't like.
So
And
I'm
again,
not
it's not
forced to be
something
eating mushrooms in every meal.
exactly, exactly. So we go through a lot of those things, and then we talk about the challenges or the reasons why it hasn't worked for you so far, because that's a really big issue, right? If it
Yep.
was super easy, there wouldn't be necessarily a need for dietitians because people would be doing it already and health issues wouldn't be getting worse in many cases. So we help focus on addressing those challenges and brainstorming, but really working with our clients to figure out what the best outcomes and what the best path is for them. We don't tell you what you do. We guide you in options of what it'll look like, and we really help our clients um, really kind of think through the process and think through what the outcome will be, best case scenario, worst case scenario, ideal scenario, like realistic scenarios. We help them kind of work through a lot of this to make sure that it's not going to be picture perfect. We've talked about eating out. We've talked
Mhm.
about things to do like when you make mistakes or when you've got to kind of fix something. It's definitely a work in progress, but we go through that with you and we help guide you kind of through those challenges until the things that you've talked about wanting to change are the actual habits that you've built into your new life as you're focusing on your kidney health. So it's really this focus of the outcomes of whatever you tell us, the dietitian,
Mhm.
that you want. How whatever kind of goals you want to set, we help guide you on how to get there.
Yeah, and to me, when I think of my dietitians, I have a couple that I work with. They're like coaches. They're not getting on me for James. I saw you ate a donut or something like that. No, they're like,
Right. Yeah.
okay, you ate a donut. It's not gonna wreck everything. What'd you do after that?
hmm
And they're talking to me about why did you go off your diet here? What were you craving? What situation were you in? And then they're coaching me by saying, well, here's some other options next time that you might want to consider to make so I can make better choices. It it's so different than working with a nephrologist. Not to throw nephrologists under the bus, but I feel that when I go in for my nephrologist, I've got a little bit of time, and they're just go like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. See ya
hmm
in the future. Where a dietitian, they're looking at things and they're talking. They get to know me, what I like, what I don't like, and we have real conversations. And it's not just my kidneys. It is, I want more energy. My weight's too much, and they're kind of helped me put all that together, which really, it's so helpful, the conversation, because it's like you and I talking here. That's
Hmm.
how a conversation with the dietitian goes when you're a patient. It's friendly, it's easy. Um, you don't feel bad. You feel good and empowered when you leave.
Hmm. Yeah, and it very much is a conversation. I mean, like you said, it's not just, oh, everything's great. Okay, see you next time. It's more like, well, why do you think that everything's great? Like,
Mhm.
what's been working for you, and what do you feel caused this boost in energy that you've had lately? And I mean, I just earlier this afternoon had a chat with a client, and we talked a lot about energy levels. We talked about
Mhm.
sleeping habits and sleeping patterns. We talked
Yes.
about a lot of like lifestyle things that weren't always connected to the diet, but in some cases they were tied over to some food choices. But really looking at a lot of these opportunities, and again, just be when things are going great, that's almost when I want to kind of dig into like, well, why do you think that's happening? What's
Mhm.
going on? And like, how can we put this on repeat? How can we make this happen again so the next time you check in, you feel great as well? Um, so it's almost like those opportunities are just another way to dive into what's working. And
Mhm.
I do think that in some cases with just traditional medicine, it's kind of like this idea like if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Whereas I'm like, hey, it's not broke. That's awesome. How's this going? Like
Exactly.
I want to figure out what's making it tink or what's making it tinker or work. Um,
And if the
because that's a
diet's
really
working great, that means you may have a little more flexibility to treat yourself occasionally to something a
exactly.
little bit more. You don't just leave it on cruise control, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because when things are going really well, you don't want to not pay attention. You want to know what's working, why it's working, and that's a lot of what we talk about with our clients and with our students in plant-powered kidneys is to say like focus on those things. Just like when something's not doing well, when you notice a symptom, which it really is a symptom like nausea or diarrhea or constipation, when you notice something like that, it's telling you something's not working. But on the flip side, when you notice that you're feeling better and that you have more energy and that you're going to the
Mm.
bathroom more regularly, okay, so what about that? What do you think is helping that all come together? Like, what is making that happen? Again, how can we put this on repeat and how can we continue this habit? So both sides of it. Um, it's not just a when something's bad, then you get into like, oh, what did you do? And no,
Hmm.
no, we've it's much bigger than that.
Yep. Now, who can work with a renal dietitian?
So basically anybody, but I will say um, chances are, so if you're in the United States on dialysis, you have a renal dietitian. They may or may not be board certified. They may be working on getting their certification. That's every dietitian's option, but the dialysis center dietitians are renal dietitians. So dialysis patients in the US will see one at least once a month. There are CKD clinics, there's nephrology clinics that may have a dietitian there. So you might see one in a nephrology clinic. There are transplant dietitians. So after you get a kidney transplant, then you'll be working with a dietitian who specifically helps you on the transplant diet. Things to pay attention to when you have your transplant. Oh yeah, there you go. Um,
From
so
the
then
blog.
also
I love the graphics in the blogs. They're awesome.
good. I'm really glad because I've been making them. Um, Hospital patients, you may see a renal dietitian, and they may or may not be really entirely focused on renal. When I was in dialysis, I also did some hospital work on the side. Some weekends during the month, I would still be in the hospitals. So I was still a renal dietitian at that point, but I was also working in the hospital. And long-term care facilities can will have dietitians many times, either contracted or in-house, that will see people and help them out with their nutrition. But again, anybody in general can see a renal dietitian or a dietitian in general for that matter. Um, just the point is, if you want to work on your nutrition, if you have diet changes, and specifically if you have health issues like kidney disease, like diabetes, like cardiovascular issues, high blood pressure, that is we're dietitians where we thrive because that's what we get trained on from very early in school and then all the way throughout our dietetic internship and our career.
Yeah, and one thing that was very interesting to me is my wife used to be a swimmer. She got a scholarship,
Oh, cool.
huge into swimming, and she was eating healthy, or so she thought, until I started working with a dietitian. I was not healthy, and then I started learning all this stuff, and there were things that even she thought, "Oh, this is how it is," but it's like, no, 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 it's this.
Hmm.
So that part about everyone, you don't have to have a problem to benefit from
Hmm.
working with a dietitian. um, they may work with you and say, hey, you're eating great, you're doing fantastic, keep up what you're doing. Chances are you're going to learn a lot of stuff, and
Hmm.
it only helps improve your life and could even have a very positive impact, not only your quality of life, but your length of life here
Yeah.
on earth.
Hmm. One of my favorite things to do, well, with the Plant Powered Kidneys course, we really aim at teaching people in the early stages. The course is not meant for late stage CKD. It's meant for people that are in the more like preventive time. I always recommend that course to people who have a family history of kidney issues. So anyone who has a family history of kidney issues is at an increased risk of their own kidney issues. So, to be made aware of all of this kind of stuff as soon as possible. And so, for all of you out there that are watching, thinking, I wish I knew this sooner, this is something to share with your
Mhm.
family, your immediate family, because if you have kidney issues, they have a higher risk of having them as well later in life. So, think of it as paying it forward for your family, of telling them like you have a higher risk, you should know more about kidney nutrition and kidney health, because the more you learn earlier on, the more opportunities you have. And
Yes.
a lot of you, I know you can relate when it's getting down into the late stages towards the point of needing dialysis, the opportunities become more frequent and it becomes more about management. And that's why healthcare is so prevalent in late stages, because healthcare is big on management of health related issues. But
Yep.
we at Planned Powered Kidneys, we really love to aim more about the growth and the preventive side. And that comes from knowing about a lot of the stuff ahead of time. So, phosphorus. Nobody thinks about phosphorus until their kidneys aren't doing well or their
And it's
phosphorus
in
levels are high.
everything, it seems like.
Exactly, exactly. But imagine the kind of information, like if you knew about it so far ahead of time that it never really became an issue
Yeah.
because you just learned about it and you were able to take care of it. I mean, we know that phosphorus additives are not good for anybody. I mean, the American population, and like you said, James, early on, it's the American diet is more fast food, more packaged food.
Hmm.
It's not really setting us up for good health down the road.
No.
So teaching people earlier on things to look for, like phosphorus additives, knowing that it can be helpful, is just I just kind of envision this ripple effect in our different generations and
Mhm.
even ideally in healthcare. I mean, I would love it if we didn't need as many dialysis clinics as we do, but we do need them. And they're going to continue to be coming up because so many more people are having kidney issues. But I would love to see more preventive information
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like the it's hard for me to put it in words exactly
Oh, yeah.
how exciting
It's
it
that
is.
standard American diet, the SAD diet, is just so unhealthy. And so many of us out there are eating that way. Even outside the United States, it's kind of the Western diet is spreading.
Hmm.
And I, you know, I knew I wasn't eating healthy. Everything was coming through a drive-through window, but I really didn't know just how serious it was. I always thought, you know what? I got my Big Mac, my Biggie fries, and my great big giant Dr. Pepper. I'll go for a short walk tonight, and that'll take care of it. I didn't
Hmm.
realize that's not how it works. Plus, the
Hmm.
phosphorus additives, the other chemicals, My kidneys were bad. I had no clue. And I'm sitting there just bombarding them with more and more work, making it even tougher for my kidneys to keep up with me. And they just spiral downward. The
Hmm.
earlier people can find out about this, the more time they have to slow down that progression of kidney disease and hopefully never ever get to where it's really serious that it impacts their quality of life.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Now, speaking along those lines, and this is an area that you and I definitely agree on, when can a person work with a renal dietitian?
So, yeah, as I mentioned right away, you don't need any kind of stage of CKD to work with a dietitian or even a renal dietitian for that matter. You can see dietitians in a preventive sense. And we've talked, we did a talk a while, not too long ago, but we did a talk about using your health insurance to work with a dietitian. So you guys can reference that video or the article on our blog about the steps to go through to contact your own health insurance and see what kind of nutrition services that you have covered because there are preventive nutrition services available. So before kidney diagnosis, again, if you just have a history of any family illness issues, which pretty much all of us do, we
Yeah,
have
that
some
was
kind of
me. My
family.
mom, kidney disease, and I didn't even think about it that, hey, that makes me more likely to develop it. And boom,
Mhm.
I did.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and again, with family history, we all have some family health history things to be aware of, and those are the things we really want to be proactive on. So you don't have to have a diagnosis of any kind to see a dietitian, but let's say you do get a diagnosis and you find out you have CKD stage X. Honestly, it doesn't matter what stage it is. You can see a dietitian, and in fact, I would really strongly encourage you, even if you're, I want to say even, but like stage one, you just see you have some little bit of kidney damage or there's something going on. Maybe your kidney function, your GFR is fine, but you're having kidney stones or something else that is related to some kidney health issue. That is such a great opportunity to work with a dietitian to nip it in the bud and take care of it. And I've worked with clients that are in the early stages that get really good results because they're so proactive in being preventive and taking care of their kidneys. And they don't wait and think, oh, just down the road if it gets worse or something. No, they take care of it right away. And
Yeah.
you want to make sure too. I've had so many people message me and tell me, "Oh, well, my doctor says I don't need a dietitian because I'm only
Wrong.
stage three." Yeah, that's their opinion. That's not science. The
Exactly.
facts are, and the Kadoki guidelines. These are the guidelines that are put out by the National Kidney Foundation and are heavily researched. They do, in fact, recommend every single stage CKD has a dietitian to work with. They don't say,
Mm.
oh, it's okay as long as you wait or as long as you refer at stage four. No, they
You've
say
lost all
every
that
single
time when you
stage.
get to that point. The earlier
Exactly.
you can find out and start, you control your diet. The
Yeah.
earlier you start making small, simple changes, it's
Hmm.
not even massive changes usually. The slower your progression of kidney disease can go, which is amazing.
Hmm.
You may never even get to stage four. Um, and if you wait to your stage four, you don't get that time back.
Right.
It might have been 5 or 6 years. You could have been eating healthier, better for your kidneys, better for your quality of life, better for your life expectancy overall, better for your heart. So many
Hmm.
reasons to do it.
Exactly. And every time you get a new set of labs, that that is another opportunity, especially, oh my gosh, this absolutely drives me crazy when the doctor will say, "Oh, a low sodium diet, but you don't need to see a dietitian." And it's like, wait a minute, you're giving me dietary recommendations, but you're also telling me I don't need to see somebody who specializes in nutrition. Very conflicting. If they're giving you, anytime they give you any kind of nutrition recommendations, that is your segue, that is your entryway to say, oh, so I should see a dietitian because you're telling me to make changes to my diet. Therefore, I should see a dietitian. So when you get labs and if they're going over these things with you and talking about anything when they're reviewing your health, that is a great opportunity for you to say, hey, this sounds like a really good time for me to see a dietitian. And
Mhm.
um, you could have an improvement in your kidney function and still say, you know what, I really want to see a dietitian because I feel like I'm missing out on some things. And I feel like I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can because a dietitian will help go through everything. And I can I guarantee every single time we find something, nobody's perfect and we don't expect anybody to be, but we can definitely find things to say, hey, this is an opportunity for you to focus on. So there's always going to be something there for you, but you got to talk with the doctor. And you don't need the doctor's approval to see a dietitian. In some cases, health insurance will say that you need a referral from a doctor. So that can be a barrier, and that's something you really want to continue to talk with your doctor about. But they shouldn't be, if you request a referral to a dietitian, they shouldn't block that care for you. I'm trying to say that as like politically and like diplomatically as
Yeah, they
possible.
may not
Um,
want to hand you off to a dietitian. And I think that's what some of them think they're doing, which it
mhm,
isn't. It's another
no.
person's helping.
Hmm.
But I found that I just push and they'll do it. They'll give the referral. I like the referral. For me, my insurance covers it every time if I get a referral. When I don't, I either pay with my health savings account, which is one of the benefits I have through my work, or I fill out the paperwork and I talk to insurance to get it covered.
Yep.
Everything has been covered every time for me, though it has taken some effort on many
Hmm.
occasions.
Yeah. And again, you guys, check out the article about how to use your insurance to find
Mhm.
out if they cover dietitians, or you can just call them. You know, the number on the back of the card, call them and start talking to people. I will say they don't always have the right answer. They don't always have all the answers, but you can kind of start digging around a little bit, and you might need to speak to a couple of people, but they should eventually be able to. I think honestly, I think the guide that we have is probably the most direct way for you to know exactly because we'll give you in our blog we give you like the certain codes of like ask about this code and ask about this code, and it kind of gives
Yeah.
you more of a direct outline.
Yes.
Um,
And my doctor, my family doctor, is awesome at the codes. He sits there, he's like, James, you're fat. I'm gonna put you got your weight problem. That's how we're gonna get you in for this one. The next one, your heart. We got to take care of your heart. That's it. I'm going to code
mhm,
this because you're not
mhm,
eating heart healthy. And I'm like, fine, doc. If it covers it, you code it. I'm good. We're being honest.
exactly.
And he's just saying, hey, your insurance will cover it for this, for this, for this. And none of us larger people like admitting or talking about our size. But I'm like, hey, if it's going to cover the cost for me, put it in there.
Mhm,
I'm fine with it,
mhm.
doc.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's get it covered because it shows it's basically trying to give the insurance what they want to hear. Is there a reason that you should be seeing a dietitian? And there's a ton of reasons, but for everybody that may be possible, but it really comes back to there's some codes that us as dietitians that we can use, very, very small, like a few amount of them that we're allowed to use, but your doctor can provide us with more codes because we need to have that like kind of the doctor's oversee to basically give a diagnosis. So like a CKD3 has a certain code. I can't use it myself for my clients for their insurance reimbursement, but if they give me some kind of paperwork that they have from their doctor that has those codes, then I can put those on, and then they have potentially a higher chance of getting reimbursed by their insurance.
Yep. Now, Margaret has a great question. Now, not all dietitians are plant based. And I was a meat and potatoes guy before all my kidney problems. I've now become very heavy in the plant based, not 100%, but I'm awful close because I've seen the data how a plant based diet is easier on our bodies, easier to digest, easier to process, our pH, all that stuff. Is
Mhm.
finding a plant based dietitian more difficult than finding one who's not um, more familiar with the plant based diets?
I would say it can be, but like you said, more research is coming out to show how a plant-based diet is so kidney protective. I know a lot of dietitians are, especially dietitians like renal dietitians or board certified renal dietitians, they are probably more aware of the recommendations and looking at these things. Ultimately, as a dietitian, again, we're going to follow your lead. So if you are wanting to follow a plant-based diet, we're going to say, okay, great. How can I support you on this? Or let me teach you more about your proteins related to the plant-based diet. Let me teach you about how much protein you need based on X, Y, and Z from your health history and based on the plans that you say that you eat. Things like that. So we will, it's not about us, it's about you. So is kind of my recommendation. Also, more and more dietitians are working online. So, like Plant Powered Kidneys, we're a virtual practice. I see all of my
Mhm.
clients. Shelby sees all of her clients, just like we're talking right now through webcam and chat. So we are able to work with more people in more states in the United States, depending on the different licensure laws. So that also helps with accessibility. If you're saying I need to find somebody in person in my neighborhood or in my city or town, that can make it a bit tougher depending on where you live, because again, it just kind of narrows down that geography of who's in that vicinity. Um, it's not always impossible, but
Mhm.
it can be it can be more of a challenge.
Yeah, and for me, I've become so used to the virtual conversations. My dietitians are both at a hospital, maybe a 20-minute drive. I've been in there once in
Hmm.
person, twice in person, because she always gives samples, which is great. Another benefit of talking to a dietitian, like, I don't know about these shakes or this or this or this snack. They might have some samples to let you try, but it's all been virtual, which is great. And one of the things that I like doing, kind of like when we were talking about when to see a dietitian, my labs are stable now. They're pretty much holding still, just fluctuating the small amount of range. So I'm stable. I've
Yeah.
got my diet down. I know what to eat. But I will ping my dietitian and say, hey, I'm going to be going on a trip. I love going to Amish country. And Jen and I were just talking. They have the best food, everybody. Unbelievably delicious food. And when I'm there, I forget about my kidneys. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy some food. So I prepare. I talk to my dietitian. I say, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What are some tips to help me
Hmm.
before and when I get back? Because I'm going to enjoy the food. I
Hmm.
can't say no. It's part of the experience. And they give me some guidance to help me, and it's in a very positive way, which is great. So I don't see my dietitian very often. I have a question, I can set up a virtual consultation, and then boom, we chat just like this. I get what
Hmm.
I need. When my labs were not stable, the conversation was very different. But I just wanted to mention that it's one of the things that, yeah, Miss Kitty says Amish pies. Hey, they're cherry pies. I love them. Oh, real cherries. Great if you got gout. The sugar's probably not all good for you. But that's one of the things that I found they really help with. Now, as
Mm.
I mentioned earlier, when I was first diagnosed, I was scared to death of food. I did not know what to eat. And those who have followed me for a long time, my wife tried to make chili, because I love chili, as soon as I got out of the ICU, with zero salt. She did it. Oh, it was awful. None of us could eat it. It was just so bad. And I was scared to death what I could eat. How many people who come and work with you, Jen, are also afraid of food?
100%. 100%. There is not one person that I've worked with that came to me and said, um, I haven't stopped eating, or I haven't been able to eat bananas, or I had to stop eating tomato. Oh, one of my dear clients
Oh,
who he stopped eating tomatoes. He had like garden grown tomatoes that he couldn't have because of this fear of potassium. And we talked about reincorporating those back into the diet because it was something that he really enjoyed and he enjoyed with his family. Everybody, when they first look at the renal diet, is thinking of all the stuff they have to give up. And honestly, I do blame the healthcare system with all of their nasty foods to avoid lists, which if you
Hmm.
guys follow us at Plant Powered Kidneys, if you follow us on Facebook or on Instagram, you see that we don't do information about foods to avoid. What we do is we teach you what foods are high in potassium, what foods are low in potassium. We talk about foods that don't have added phosphates. We talk about where to look for added phosphates. Like we teach you about what to understand in your food rather than say, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't have this. It's because there's no such thing.
Hmm.
We can't put that across the board for everybody. Just like you said, James, everybody, just because you're in the same stage as somebody else doesn't mean you're on the same diet. So we like to teach more of the cold facts. And the facts are what a food is composed of and how the portion matters. So uh,
Exactly.
that's
That
a big part.
banana never makes it to your kidneys. It gets broken
Hmm.
down, and it's those nutrients that get in your blood, and that's what gets to your kidneys. And it all comes to portion control. I was no banana, no avocado. Oh my goodness, I love avocados. Good for your
Hmm.
heart. Got great oil in them. I love tomatoes. I avoided all of those. Now I eat them. I don't have a whole avocado. I may
Hmm.
only have half or a quarter on my, with my lunch or something like that. But it's amazing how a dietitian gave me so many more choices. And it wasn't about avoiding foods. It was these foods I need to eat less of. These foods are more healthy. You can have more of them.
Hmm.
And it just made eating for me not being afraid of food, but making choices. It's all about choices now.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Now, the big question, and we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I got to get this question in there.
Oh,
Where can I find a renal dietitian?
so we do at plantpoweredkidneys.com, we do have some resources that you can find on the website. But in general, so let's say you want to look locally first. One of the things that you could do is reach out to the dialysis clinics, and you might be able to contact the dietitian that's at that clinic and maybe ask for just some recommendations. They might know some other dietitians that are working locally to help people, or they themselves might be able to help. In general, though, a dietitian in the dialysis clinic is only working with the patients of that dialysis clinic. So there might be some exceptions depending on the clinic and their own setup, but I can speak to my experience when I was a dietitian in the dialysis setting. Those are my patients. That's who I would see. Somebody couldn't just walk in off the street and I couldn't just see them. But you can connect with them and just say, hey, I'm looking for a dietitian that helps people with CKD not on dialysis. Do you know of anybody? Because dietitians, we're a pretty close knit group. Um, because we just kind of network and we go to school together and we go through our internships together and then we work together. So you can connect with dietitians that way. You can talk with your hospital dietitian. So again, if you are in the hospital for any kind of reason, you can ask to see a dietitian there, and then you can ask that dietitian about outpatient care, any kind of references there. If you're in a transplant clinic or if you know of a transplant clinic, you can again reach out, talk with the dietitian there. So right away, think of all those kind of different healthcare environments that you're in which you could at least start by speaking to a dietitian and see if they can't help you kind of connect down that path. You can also find the National Kidney Foundation. They have a dietitian directory for the United States. So, different states, you can just basically go through the region and then go through the state. We have our dietitian directory. So, yeah, there's a link there, and that will take you
And
to
there's also
several
that
different
one.
websites. Yep. Yeah, we have the dietitians, of course, Shelby and I right now at Plant Powered Kidneys that we see clients in the United States. Our dietitian directory page also goes to other countries. I have a lot of different countries linked. Um, yeah, that other page, that was the National Kidney Foundation's dietitian directory for the United States. Um, a simple way, if you're international, is just Google Dietetic Association country, Dietetic Association Spain, Dietetic Association Canada. something like that, and that will help hopefully get you to the right website, which they'll have contact information, and then you can reach out to them directly to be connected with a dietitian. Um, that's some of my best recommendations. And again, we talked about insurance. You can speak with insurance, you can speak with your doctor, you can find ways to connect that way as well in finding a dietitian. And then, from there on, just kind of look at their letters behind their name and see exactly what does that mean. So I have
Yep.
RDN for registered dietitian nutritionist. I have CSR for certified specialist in renal nutrition, and then I have LDN for licensed dietitian nutritionist because I'm licensed in several states. So there's a lot of different little nuances there.
Yep. Now, what if there's someone that maybe I'm in a location or my insurance doesn't, for some reason, I just can't see a renal dietitian, but I want to learn more about eating healthy.
So I am pretty biased in this because it's something that I made. But we have our Plant Powered Kidneys course, which is a 6-week nutrition course. And actually, super early spoiler alert, I'm going to be announcing next week, you guys, about enrollment. So we run our 6-week course live several times a year, and then our students have lifetime access. So I even have students that have been in it for over a year, and every time we run our course, they jump in with us. They watch the live Q&As, they'll watch the updated videos, they'll get all the access to all the information over and over again. So it's a great thing to be a part of and to get support of a community that's not on social media, which is another nice thing. No distraction from other social media happenings. It's just a place for everybody to connect, for alumni to share their story, to ask questions, all kinds of things. So if you're interested about that, you can find more information on our website at plantpoweredkidneys.com. And actually, I do have a little heads up. I have a little banner at the top of our website right now so that you can get added to the wait list. So you'll be notified once the doors open, because we do have an early bird special that we'll offer in the first several days of the enrollment period. So you'll save some money and still get lifetime access. So that's a big thing. That's a big part, is joining some kind of like nutrition program or getting some nutrition education that really is, I would say, focused on those renal specific things.
Yep. Awesome. Now, before we end, because we are at the very top, or coming up at the top of the hour, I wanted to quickly call out Nella, who says she's donating a kidney to her son next week. Oh my, and it's scary for her, but
Oh,
oh my goodness, Nella, that is like the best gift ever you can give. I have interviewed so many kidney donors, all of them so happy afterwards. The recovery has been very easy for all of them. And what you are giving your son is just absolutely amazing. I want to, thank you so much from my heart, helping, giving him the gift of life.
yeah.
Um, oh, just so amazing. So I wanted
Yeah,
to make sure
that's
and point that out. I'll put it up there on the screen again.
yeah, that is so incredibly awesome. It was always so uh I was always so speechless when I would come into the dialysis clinic and somebody had a kidney transplant. And
Oh,
I in some cases I didn't see him again because, hey, they didn't need to come back to dialysis. So
yeah.
um but it's just it's such an it's so awesome. It is really good job, Noah. That is fantastic.
Yeah, and I've heard so many great stories talking to people who have either donated a kidney or received a kidney. And I'll tell you, one of the ones that kind of always chokes me up, um, a gal, I interviewed her here. I can't remember her name. I have one of her pictures she painted. She's an artist. She donated a kidney to a stranger, and then years later, she got to meet the person,
Mm,
and it was a student, and they graduated high school after they got the kidney and were going on to college. It's like, wow, you gave that person what they needed so that they could continue their life.
yeah,
And it's just,
yeah,
oh, so amazing. But I definitely wanted to
it
to,
is.
to mention that there. And um, you know just, Oh, thank you so much for doing that. Your son is going to be forever indebted to you, and you're always going to be with your son. You know?
Hmm. Hmm.
I know my kids are like, Dad, we love you being with us, but at some point they're going to be like, Dad, I don't want you around me. But I will. If I did that, I would always be there with them. All right, that brings us to the top of the hour. I want to thank you so much, Jen, for this conversation. This is fantastic. And for everyone out there, I am constantly asked, James, what's the secret? What supplements did you take? What pills did you take? What did you do? In order to get my overall health and my kidney health up, the only thing I did was I started exercising, not even a lot. I just started becoming healthier, and I changed the way I ate. And my heart is happier now. My weight isn't, I still have a little bit of portion control. I got to get my weight under control, but I have greatly improved my health, greatly improved my quality of life. All the symptoms that I was suffering, I was able to use diet to manage them and then eventually eliminate them, which is fantastic. And I still think about everything I eat. I'm not afraid of food. And, just this last weekend, I went back to Amish country and I had a cherry turnover. The Amish make amazing turnovers with fresh cherries. It was gigantic too. I shouldn't have ate the whole thing, but I was just loving it. And I did a lot of walking. So I burned off some of that sugar with the calories, but all of it was thanks to working with dietitians. Without that, I would still be afraid to eat. I'd probably be malnourished or something and facing other issues and still have low kidney function. So thank you so much, Jen, and thanks to all the dietitians out there who help kidney patients. And this is the last video of this week. Jen and I will be back next week. And keep an eye, everybody, to the schedule on dadvicetv.com. I'm going to be shifting the shows to 7 p.m. Dr. Rose, we're now going to do those on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And Jen and I are going to switch to 7 p.m. because I am hoping to start a new job soon, which would make me extremely excited. Be great to have health care again and not be paying so much. My daughter just got braces this morning, and I'm like, oh. Would have been nicer with some insurance to help with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all next week in the next video. Bye, everyone.